Hello, and welcome to the Narrative Reading Bible Podcast. My name is Jessica. We are on the verge of wrapping up Book 3, Providence and Perseverance, which covers First Chronicles to Esther and Daniel. Today, we are going to begin reading the first part of Daniel in pages 198 to 208 of Book 3, and tomorrow we will finish reading this book with pages 208 to 225. As is custom, we're going to begin with an introduction to the book and then dive into the text. We are reading from the Berean Standard Bible Translation. Enjoy today's reading. Introduction to Daniel. The book of Daniel uniquely combines historical narrative with apocalyptic visions, offering a powerful portrayal of God's sovereignty over earthly kingdoms and his ultimate plan for history. Through its blend of personal stories and prophetic visions, Daniel delivers messages of faith, divine protection, and the eventual triumph of God's kingdom, encouraging believers to trust in God's purposes, even in challenging times. The historical narratives center on Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who, while exiled in Babylon, faced trials that test their faith. Their unwavering loyalty to God amid a foreign, hostile culture exemplifies the strength of covenant faithfulness under pressure. Key episodes such as God rescuing Daniel and his friends from the fiery furnace and Daniel's survival in the lion's den showcase God's unwavering presence and his protection over those who stand firm in their faith. These narratives encourage readers to persevere in faith, assured that God remains close, actively working to sustain and protect his people amid the trials of a fallen world. The second half of Daniel shifts focus to a series of prophetic visions that unveil the rise and fall of empires and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. The prophetic symbolism of these empires, portrayed as beasts, emphasizes the oppressive and often chaotic nature of human kingdoms in contrast to the peace and justice of God's coming reign. Through these apocalyptic visions, filled with symbolic imagery, God provides Daniel with a divine perspective on history, showing that earthly powers are transient and ultimately subject to his rule. As such, despite the apparent dominance of worldly empires, God is sovereign and will bring history to its intended conclusion. Central to these visions is the prophecy of the Son of Man, in which Daniel sees one like a Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, a figure to whom is given authority, glory, and the sovereign power over all nations. This vision stands out amid the turbulent rise and fall of earthly empires. In a world filled with the temporary and often brutal rule of human kingdoms, the Son of Man appears as a divine figure whose kingdom will endure forever. His dominion, unlike any earthly authority, is not subject to decay, oppression, or overthrow. This figure is granted an everlasting kingdom, an unshakable realm that will bring justice, peace, and unity to all people. This prophecy of the Son of Man points directly to Jesus Christ, who frequently uses the title Son of Man in the Gospels to describe himself and his mission. In doing so, Jesus connects his identity with Daniel's vision, positioning himself as the fulfillment of this divine role. Through his life, teachings, and miracles, Jesus reveals himself as the anticipated Son of Man, embodying both humility and authority, divinity and humanity. The Son of Man title captures Jesus' unique role as the one who bridges the gap between God and humanity, coming not only to rule, but also to serve and sacrifice. Jesus fulfills this vision through his death, resurrection, and ascension. By his death, Jesus achieves victory over sin and offers salvation, conquering the powers of darkness that oppress humanity. Through his resurrection, he breaks the hold of death, affirming his authority over all things and securing life for those who follow him. And by his ascension, he is enthroned in heaven, seated at the right hand of God, signifying the establishment of his eternal reign. This enthronement fulfills the vision in Daniel as Jesus takes his place as the everlasting King who holds all authority, glory, and sovereign power. Christ's kingdom unlike those symbolized in Daniel's vision, is not built on violence or earthly power, but on righteousness, mercy, and peace. It welcomes people from every nation and background, uniting them under the reign of a king who is both just and compassionate. His kingdom will never be shaken. It stands as the ultimate fulfillment of God's promises, inaugurating an era where the brokenness and turmoil of earthly powers are replaced by the perfect governance of God. In Jesus, the hope of Daniel's vision is realized, bringing about an everlasting kingdom that will reign in righteousness and restore creation to its intended harmony. Daniel's vision provides hope and assurance of God's ultimate victory and the establishment of his eternal kingdom. It reminds believers that the tumultuous and often discouraging events of history are under God's control and that his redemptive plan is unfolding according to his sovereign will. The prophetic visions affirm that the struggles and injustices of the present are temporary and will one day be replaced by the righteous, unending rule of God. For the exiles in Babylon and readers throughout history, Daniel's visions serve as a profound source of hope, reminding us that no earthly power can thwart God's purposes or diminish his authority. Moreover, the book of Daniel emphasizes God's sovereignty over all nations and rulers, reinforcing the truth that history is in his hands. Through the symbolic portrayal of empires as beasts and the ultimate triumph of God's kingdom, Daniel reassures believers that God's purposes will stand, no matter how powerful or destructive worldly empires may seem. This assurance is crucial for maintaining faith and hope during times of persecution and uncertainty, encouraging believers to look beyond present difficulties and to trust in God's future victory. Ultimately, Daniel's message provides hope and assurance of God's ultimate victory and the establishment of his eternal reign, affirming that God's redemptive plan will unfold, bringing peace and justice to his people.
Daniel. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered into his hand Jehoiakim, king of Judah, along with some of the articles from the house of God. He carried these off to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, where he put them in the treasury of his God. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his court officials, to bring in some Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without blemish, handsome, gifted in all wisdom, knowledgeable, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace, and to teach them the language and literature of the Chaldeans. The king assigned them daily provisions of the royal food and wine. They were to be trained for 3 years, after which they were to enter the king's service. Among these young men were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel he gave the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah, Shadrach, to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile himself with the king's food or wine. So he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself. Now God had granted Daniel favor and compassion from the chief official, but he said to Daniel, "I fear my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. For why should he see your faces looking thinner than those of the other young men your age? You would endanger my head before the king." Then Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given only vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearances with those of the young men who are eating the royal food, and deal with your servants according to what you see." So he consented to this and tested them for 10 days. And at the end of 10 days they looked healthier and better nourished than all the young men who were eating the king's food. So the steward continued to withhold their choice food and the wine they were to drink, and he gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men God gave knowledge and understanding in every kind of literature and wisdom, and Daniel had insight into all kinds of visions and dreams. Now at the end of the time specified by the king, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. And the king spoke with them, and among all the young men he found no one equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king consulted them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom. And Daniel remained there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. In the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams that troubled his spirit, and sleep escaped him. So the king gave orders to summon the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to explain his dreams. When they came and stood before the king, he said to them, "I have had a dream, and my spirit is anxious to understand it." Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, "O king, may you live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation." The king replied to the astrologers, "My word is final. If you do not tell me the dream and its interpretation, you will be cut into pieces, and your houses will be reduced to rubble. But if you tell me the dream and its interpretation, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and its interpretation." They answered a second time, "Let the king tell the dream to his servants, and we will give the interpretation." The king replied, "I know for sure that you are stalling for time, because you see that my word is final. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one decree for you. You have conspired to speak before me false and fraudulent words, hoping the situation will change. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I will know that you can give me its interpretation." The astrologers answered the king, "No one on earth can do what the king requests. No king, however great and powerful, has ever asked anything like this of any magician, enchanter, or astrologer. What the king requests is so difficult that no one can tell it to him except the gods, whose dwelling is not with mortals." This response made the king so furious with anger that he gave orders to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out that the wise men were to be executed, and men went to look for Daniel and his friends to execute them. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to execute the wise men of Babylon, Daniel replied with discretion and tact. "Why is the decree from the king so harsh?" he asked. At this time Arioch explained the situation to Daniel. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him some time so that he could give him the interpretation. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, urging them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his friends would not be killed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision, and he blessed the God of heaven and declared, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. He changes the times and seasons. He removes kings and establishes them. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals the deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. To you, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, because you have given me wisdom and power. And now you have made known to me what we have requested, for you have made known to us the dream of the king." Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Bring me before the king, and I will give him the interpretation." Arioch hastily brought Daniel before the king and said to him, "I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who will tell the king the interpretation." The king responded to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in the dream as well as its interpretation?" Daniel answered the king, "No wise man, enchanter, medium, or magician can explain to the king the mystery of which he inquires. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the latter days. Your dream and the visions that came into your mind as you lay on your bed were these. As you lay on your bed, O king, your thoughts turned to the future, and the revealer of mysteries made known to you what will happen. And to me this mystery has been revealed, not because I have more wisdom than any man alive, but in order that the interpretation might be made known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind. As you, O king, were watching, a great statue appeared. A great and dazzling statue stood before you, and its form was awesome. The head of the statue was pure gold. Its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs were iron, and its feet were part iron and part clay. As you watched, a stone was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. Then the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold were shattered and became like chaff on the threshing floor in summer. The wind carried them away, and not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that had struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, are the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given sovereignty, power, strength, and glory. Wherever the sons of men or beasts of the field or birds of the air dwell, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. But after you there will arise another kingdom inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron, for iron shatters and crushes all things, and like iron that crushes all things, it will shatter and crush all the others. And just as you saw that the feet and toes were made partly of fired clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet some of the strength of iron will be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. As you saw the iron mixed with clay, so the peoples will mix with one another, but will not hold together any more than iron mixes with clay. In the days of those kings the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will shatter all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, but will itself stand forever. And just as you saw a stone being cut out of the mountain without human hands, and it shattered the iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold, so the great God has told the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. At this, King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, paid homage to Daniel, and ordered that an offering of incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, "Your God is truly the God of gods and the Lord of kings, the revealer of mysteries, since you were able to reveal this mystery." Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many generous gifts. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. And at Daniel's request the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to manage the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained in the king's court. King Nebuchadnezzar made a golden statue 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and he set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to assemble the satraps, prefects, governors, advisers, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other officials of the provinces to attend the dedication of the statue he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisers, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the rulers of the provinces assembled for the dedication of the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "O people of every nation and language, this is what you are commanded. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the blazing fiery furnace." Therefore, as soon as all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and all kinds of music, the people of every nation and language would fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. At this time some astrologers came forward and maliciously accused the Jews, saying to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, may you live forever. You, O king, have issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the golden statue, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into the blazing fiery furnace. But there are some Jews you have appointed to manage the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who have ignored you, O king, and have refused to serve your gods or worship the golden statue you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, furious with rage, summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden statue I have set up? Now, if you are ready, as soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the statue I have made. But if you refuse to worship, you will be thrown at once into the blazing fiery furnace. Then what God will be able to deliver you from my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If the God whom we serve exists, then he is able to deliver us from the blazing fiery furnace and from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden statue you have set up." At this, Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage, and the expression on his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He gave orders to heat the furnace 7 times hotter than usual, and he commanded some mighty men of valor in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing fiery furnace. So they were tied up, wearing robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, and they were thrown into the blazing fiery furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the fiery flames killed the men who carried up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, firmly bound, fell into the blazing fiery furnace. Suddenly King Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and asked his advisers, "Did we not throw 3 men firmly bound into the fire?" "Certainly, O king," they replied. "Look," he exclaimed, "I see 4 men, unbound and unharmed, walking around in the fire, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Then Nebuchadnezzar approached the door of the blazing fiery furnace and called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. And when the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisers had gathered around, they saw that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men. Not a hair of their heads was singed, their robes were unaffected, and there was no smell of fire on them. Nebuchadnezzar declared, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him. They violated the king's command and risked their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything offensive against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be cut into pieces and their houses reduced to rubble, for there is no other God who can deliver in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar, to the people of every nation and language who dwell in all the earth, may your prosperity be multiplied. I am pleased to declare the signs and wonders that the Most High God has performed for me. How great are his signs, how mighty his wonders! His kingdom is an eternal kingdom. His dominion endures from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at ease in my house and flourishing in my palace. I had a dream, and it frightened me. While in my bed, the images and visions in my mind alarmed me. So I issued a decree that all the wise men of Babylon be brought before me to interpret the dream for me. When the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and diviners came in, I told them the dream, and they could not interpret it for me. But at last into my presence came Daniel, whose name is Belteshazzar, after the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And I told him the dream. O Belteshazzar, chief of the magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that no mystery baffles you. So explain to me the visions I saw in my dream and their interpretation. In these visions of my mind, as I was lying in bed, I saw this come to pass. There was a tree in the midst of the land, and its height was great. The tree grew large and strong, its top reached the sky, and it was visible to the ends of the earth. Its leaves were beautiful, its fruit was abundant, and upon it was food for all. Under it the beasts of the field found shelter, in its branches the birds of the air nested, and from it every creature was fed. As I lay on my bed, I also saw in the visions of my mind a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven. He called out in a loud voice, "Cut down the tree and chop off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts flee from under it and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump with its roots in the ground and a band of iron and bronze around it in the tender grass of the field. Let him be drenched with the dew of heaven and graze with the beasts on the grass of the earth. Let his mind be changed from that of a man, and let him be given the mind of a beast till 7 times pass him by." This decision is the decree of the watchers, the verdict declared by the holy ones, so that the living will know that the Most High rules over the kingdom of mankind and gives it to whom he wishes, setting over it the lowliest of men. This is the dream that I, King Nebuchadnezzar, saw. Now, Belteshazzar, tell me the interpretation, because none of the wise men of my kingdom can interpret it for me. But you are able, because the Spirit of the holy gods is in you.
Thank you for joining us in the Narrative Reading Bible today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Tune in tomorrow. We are going to finish the book of Daniel, and that means we will have finished Book 3, Providence and Perseverance. More than that, that means we're also working our way through the entire Old Testament, and that is such an amazing accomplishment. So keep reading your Bibles, keep seeing God throughout Scripture, and recognizing how He is truly working all things together for His good, for those who love God and who are the called according to His purpose. See you tomorrow. Take care and God bless.